Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to be working from Sam Jones's book, Whole Hog BBQ, and we are going to be making collards, but not just any collards. We're going to be making cabbage collards. That's what he calls them. I'm sure you can use this recipe for any type of collards that you have, but cabbage collards are what they serve at the original Skylight Inn restaurant. Actually, they don't serve them there. They don't actually even have them there. But you can buy them at the Collard Shack next door. They are a little bit more like cabbage. So I planted some in my fall garden, but I happened to get these from my produce box this week. And let's show you what they look like. They are a little bit of a lighter green, and they're very leafy. And I should have not done that, but anyway, regular collards are usually a little bit darker in my experience, but I've cooked these before. We like them. These are from Kenly, North Carolina, but they are a specific type of collard that was developed in Eastern North Carolina. And so they may be hard for you to find. If so, whatever collards you can find will do absolutely fine. The original recipe in here is for about a little more than twice this much. And for 10 to 15 people, we do not have 10 to 15 people to serve, and we do not have that much in the way of collards. So we are going to be basically halving the recipe. So that's the amounts I'm going to be working with. We're going to start with water in a pot that holds at least 8 quarts. I think this is about 6, but since we're having the recipe, it'll be fine. I may need to end up putting a little more water in here, even though it is, half of the recipe, just to make sure we have enough. But we are adding, so he says you can use slab bacon or ham hocks. I don't have any slab bacon, but I did happen to have a ham hock in the freezer, so we're going to use that. And this actually reminds me a lot of the collards that we made from Deep Run Roots, I believe, because in that one we also boiled a bunch of stuff before we even added the collards, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So we have the ham hock in here, and then we're also going to be adding salt pork, which I will need to cut into chunks. I'm going to need about half of this particular chunk. I don't think it's sliced. Let me open this up. Usually do this stuff off camera because it is not always easy. Yeah, this is not sliced. You can buy it in this package sliced because I've done that before, but I'm not going to measure this. I know how much is in the main package, and I know I need about half of it, so that is going to be fine. And I'm going to cut it into, I think we're going to end up taking this out, so maybe not. But it does just say cut into chunks, so that's all I'm going to do. There we go. These are pretty big chunks. I don't care. It's fine. They're going to mostly shrink down a lot. We have water. We have very flavorful pork products, and we're going to put this on the stove, bring it to a boil, turn it down, and simmer it for 90 minutes. So we'll be back in about 90 minutes, during which I'm going to wash these thoroughly in my sink. First, I'm going to wash my sink. He says 3 times, and then I'm going to remove the stems and roughly chop the leaves. So the stems are pretty thick, and mostly you don't want to eat those. If you do, they'll be fibrous and crunchy, and they'll take a lot longer to cook. So we're not going to do that. So I'm going to wash those, get them chopped up. It'll be a very large bowl full of them. I'm going to get this in the refrigerator, and we'll see you when all of that time has elapsed. Our pork products have been simmering in this liquid with the lid on for 90 minutes. And now we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. We're going to add some more pork products. I am not going to measure this out. This is just bacon grease. You can use any other sort of animal products, animal fat, like lard that you want. I save my bacon grease. So I went ahead and added that first so it can get melted. And now I'm going to add some chopped up, diced red bell pepper. And these are my cabbage collards. And like I said, this is a little bit less than half of what the recipe makes. But I'm going to be adding them in here. I've washed them, chopped them, put them in this bowl. I'm going to make sure that they're not too big as I put them in. They will cook down a lot. But we're just adding those here, and I'm going to have to stir it around and let them wilt a bit before I can get all of them in here. I have turned my heat up because we want to boil this with the collards in here, and we want to boil it for about 30 minutes uncovered. So I will need to keep my heat a little higher than it was with it covered. So the last thing I need to add is salt and pepper, because we haven't added any salt and pepper. There is salt in those pork products, but it will still need quite a bit of salt, in my opinion. You can adjust that later. And it's all to taste, so I didn't have to measure any of that. There we go. And that's it. I'm going to make sure that this doesn't run out of liquid, but I'm going to keep it boiling for about 30 minutes or until it's done to your, that was hot, to your preference. So I'll let you know how long ours boil, and we'll show you what it all looks like in about 30 minutes. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make cabbage collards from Sam Jones's book, Whole Hog BBQ. Apparently cabbage collards are a thing in North Carolina and maybe nowhere else. I don't know. If you can get them, if you've seen them and you're not from sort of Eastern North Carolina, let me know in the comments down below, because I'd love to know. And I know collards are big pretty much all over in the South, but I don't know about these particular type of collards. But I like them. I have only recently had them or known about them, and I get them from my produce box, which is where I got the ones that I cooked this time. And I ended up making a half recipe because the full recipe serves 10 to 15, and I did not need to serve 10 to 15 people that day. So one thing I will warn you about is that it has 3 sources of potentially salty pork fat in it, or pork products. It's not all fat, although most of it is. There's slab bacon or ham hocks. I used ham hocks. It has salt pork, and it has bacon grease. So all of that is pretty salty, and when I added salt, I didn't consider that potentially I might be making it too salty. Mine were not quite too salty, but they were very much on the edge. So do be careful and wait until a little bit later to taste it and then add salt appropriately. But I think this is a really good method. This is the second time that we've made it like this, where you sort of boil the pork without the greens to get that flavoring into the broth. I think that's so that you don't overcook the greens too much, although I think sturdy greens like these can take a lot of cooking, and I still like them. Up to you. Excuse me. Up to you whether you like them that way or not. But I still like them when they're pretty well cooked. I think they stand up to it very well. But this one calls for cabbage collards. You can use any collards or any sturdy green that you like to eat, and I think the method would work out well. I think I can't remember at this point exactly how long the other recipe, which was from Deep Run Roots, and I'll link that up there, boiled the ham hocks, but then she had you take it out before you added the greens. And I remember it being difficult to get the meat off of the ham hock. Whereas with this one, although that's not in the recipe, I did pull the meat off the ham hock and add it back into the greens when I pulled that out. Because why waste it? So I don't remember that, but I do remember it was a lot easier to shred the meat, the little bit of meat that's on it, off of the ham hock with this recipe than with that one. But this one does have you keep it in there the whole time. So that might also be the difference. But I think it's a good method, and it's if you haven't tried cooking greens like this and you can eat pork and like pork, this is a great recipe for you to try. And if you do try it, let me know in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else.